Hi, my name is Paul Struthers. I'm Frameline's Director of Exhibition and Programming. Welcome to Frameline44. The festival's on September 17th to 27th, showing the best new LGBTQ plus cinema from the US and around the world. Okay, you just watched a great new US feature, Gossamer Folds, and now it's time for the Q&A. I'm super pleased we have 4 excellent guests with us today. Please, can you introduce yourself and tell us your role on the film?
Hi, I'm Alexandra Gray, and I play Gossamer.
Hi, I'm Jen Richards. What's my character's name? I don't remember.
Diana.
Diana. I play a friend of Alexandra's character.
Hi, I'm Lisa Donato. I am director of Gossamer Folds.
Hi, I'm Yardley Smith, and I produced the film, and I play Phyllis, a mean shopkeeper in the movie.
Well, thanks all of you for joining us this afternoon, and congrats again on a really beautiful film.
Thank
Lisa, nice to see you. I think the last time we saw each other was in Austin last year before the lockdown, so it's nice to see you again virtually.
Nice to see you too. Actually, you're the first programmer that reached out to me about Gossamer Folds, and you had such nice things to say about it. So thank you so much for being such an advocate of my work and all of our work.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for sharing the film with me and for sharing it with Frameline. Okay, first question is for you, Lisa. And again, congrats. And I'm just keen to know how you became involved in the project.
Yeah, so it's kind of a Cinderella story for filmmakers. You know, I built a body of work over 5 years and had all of it on my website. And I got a call one day when, you know, as filmmakers, we go through peaks and valleys, and I was very much in a valley at the time. And I got a call from my manager saying, you know, someone's interested in having you direct. This would be my first feature. And I read the script by Bridget Flannery. It's a wonderful script. And I knew halfway through reading the script that I wanted to direct this film. And so, you know, Yardley might have a different story, but this was my story. And also I got recommended for this film during a Florence and the Machine concert, which is also very awesome. But I interviewed with the producing team, and it was just a perfect fit from the start, and we were off to the races.
Thanks for sharing. And Yardley, your company, Paperclip, picked up this film. Can you tell us the process of getting it made and how it came to your desk?
Yes, so the script was given to me by a good friend of mine named Adam Carl, who is a producer on the film. And our philosophy at Paperclip is we actually have a very diverse slate. So we have, you know, some animation in development. We have a really successful true crime podcast. We do films of all genres, not just horror, not just rom-coms, whatever. So Adam brought me the script, and I loved it from the first read. And the other philosophy we have at Paperclip is we want to be the people who say yes first, because it's so hard to get a yes in show business. And we have a bit of a budget, which is lucky. And so rather than trying to raise the money, I didn't want to wait. I said, let's finance it ourselves and let's just go. And when we were looking for a director, sort of back to Lisa's story, it was it was essential that somebody from the LGBTQ plus community be our director, and that we include as many people from that community, because I'm a straight white woman. My producers are middle-aged straight white men. And so we don't know what we don't know. And I've been a huge advocate of the LGBTQ plus community for a very long time. So it just seemed really natural. And I love the story because it's just this great, unexpected friendship. And oh, by the way, one of the characters happens to be trans. It is, and while it goes into some of the pain and discrimination that Alexandra's character experiences both at home and out in the world, it's really a story of victory. And I loved that.
Thanks. And Alexandra, what a fantastic performance. It's funny because I heard about the film at Sundance when you were on a panel just over 1.5 years ago. And ever since you spoke about it, I thought it's a film that I have to see and Frameline has to play. But yeah, congrats on a really wonderful performance. Can you tell us, oh, no worries. Can you tell us what attracted you to the role and tell us a bit about the casting process?
Sure. Well, I needed a job. So, it's so funny whenever people ask me, they're just like, oh, so, when you got the script, were you excited about it? It's like, yeah, it's a script. But no, it was really exciting. And the casting process, I think it was pretty easy. I mean, it was a long audition, but I submitted a tape and I heard back pretty much like within like 2 days. So it seemed like they were really interested in, telling this story right away, and that they, I guess, really liked my tape. And so, but there was a part where I didn't know that I was going to get it, because I used to have this really negative perception all the time that, I'm so used to hearing no, that I was like, I'm never going to get a yes. So, when they brought me in, all of the executives and the producers, we talked about it, and I know Yarly was like team Alexandra all day. But there were some concerns there with, how do we tell this story? Because I'm not what you quote unquote would say I'm visibly trans, if that, whatever that means. That's kind of the lingo. But so there were some concerns there early on. But I just am so happy that they really kind of brought me in and asked me a lot of questions and asked me my perspective, and I think that it all just worked out really beautiful. And so, yeah, it was pretty quick turnaround. I think we started shooting within like a month.
Oh, congrats.
I just want to add to that, Paul, that Alexandra was the first choice right from day one. She was about the third tape I saw. And I said, she's the one to beat. Nobody ever even came close. And so she was hands down, she was the ringer right out of the gate. And it was such a joy. Like, it's so hard to get a job from an audition on tape. I can tell you as an actress, Jen, I'm sure you can speak to that as well, and Alexandra, it's not, the auditioning process is sort of broken as a whole. And now you don't even get to meet anybody. Long before the pandemic, like, producers don't even want to meet you, just tape, all tape. So for Alexandra to make that kind of impression, I just was speechless and overjoyed. It was easy. It seemed easy. It felt easy.
Yeah, I always tell the story too of how, like, I really wasn't going to do the audition. I feel like so many actors probably have that. For whatever reason, you have these circumstances where you are like, oh, I can't do the audition, or I'm not going to do it, and there was something preventing me from doing it. But it was just God telling me, a light went off the day before it was due. And he just said, are you crazy? Do you want to clean toilets for the rest of your life? You need to stop and do this audition. And then I started getting phone calls about, availability and all of that. And so it just worked out really beautiful. And so I always think that everything happens for a reason. And so I think that this was just meant to be.
It was meant to be.
I remember when Lisa and I are best friends, and when she texted me when she was working on casting Gossamer Folds, and she texted me one day, she's like, hey, do you know Alexandra Gray? What do you think about her? And it was just like such a light bulb. I'm like, oh my God, Alexandra is perfect for this. Like, she's gorgeous, she's hardworking, she's talented, she's ready for a breakthrough role, she can anchor a film. It was even from the outside, not in the casting process, but from the outside. And as someone who knows most of the trans actors out there, Alexandra was absolutely an easy choice.
Agree. I just want to say one more thing about Alexandra. Well, you just know someone's born for the role when they can make you cry in a self-tape, number one. And also the same scene that you put on self-tape, that is my favorite scene in the movie. I also cried, and the entire crew around us was wiping away tears. And it was the same feeling from day one until like the 20th day of shooting. And yeah.
Well, it was perfect casting. I couldn't imagine anyone else doing the role so well. So congratulations, everyone involved. And Jen, we've been following your career at Frameline for years. You've been at Frameline, etc. and we just
I love y'all at Frameline. Great.
Yeah, we love you as well. I just want to, and it's great to know that you and Lisa are best friends, and the role in this film is really special. I was just wondering how you became involved in the project and how you prepared for this role.
Well, Lisa's contractually obligated to include me in any work she does, so I took it as a given that I would be in it. Did I even have to audition? I don't know.
No.
You texted Alexandra right away once you knew that she was in it. Hey, I'm going to be in the film too.
Yeah, it's like if Lisa's hanging out working someplace, I'm going to be there. So.
Exactly.
I'm thrilled there was a role. Was it in the original script? Was that part?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean,
was
it just helps that she's also
in there.
an amazing actress. Yeah.
So yeah, I was thrilled to be part of it. I was particularly thrilled that once I knew that it was Alexandra. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that in this kind of part, most likely it would have gone to a cis man who would have had to go through some kind of transformation, and particularly since there is a plot point early where it depends on the character being visibly recognized as trans. That's kind of what sets a story in motion at the beginning. When the main character's family moves in, they see Gossamer, and it automatically triggers like, oh, we live next to this transsexual. And frankly, Alexandra, I don't think anyone looking at Alexandra would assume that she was trans ever. And so there is a bit of a struggle there. And so I think traditionally they would have just like cast a man and dressed them up as a woman. And so it's really important and really refreshing that Yardley and Lisa and everyone else had the foresight to say like, no, we can have a little bit of willing suspension of disbelief. Once you know that this character is trans, that's fine. We don't need to visibly see it. And it's going to make the movie and the performance can be so much more authentic if we cast an actual trans person in the part. And then on top of that, it's like, as we've already said, it's impossible to imagine anyone other than Alexandra playing that part. So right from the start, I knew that this was a good project to be part of.
Fantastic. Okay, a bit of a fun question. I love the 80s, and I was wondering if making the film reminded you about anything you loved in the 80s that you'd forgotten you loved from the 80s.
Oof.
I wasn't born then.
I will have to say, I will answer first because the first thing I did after I read the script is I made a playlist, and it brought me back to there's some amazing music from the 80s. And I also went on a deep dive to find new music from the 80s. And it was so fun to just, experiment with music. I mean, every single song that I put on the original playlist made it into the film. So that's very exciting.
I'm older than all of them. So I graduated high school in 1982. So I was actually a huge Princess Diana fan. So that's one of the things I really loved about the 80s. I used to wear safety pins all over my clothes, and I was a big fan of shoulder pads because I have a big butt. So shoulder pads, they even out your butt is my point. So, and my character wears big shoulder pads, and it's good because it sort of makes you look like, oh God, oh no, go away. I'm so sorry. Zoom at home. It's good times. Anyway, so it was really, but I also went to work in the 80s. So I was working my butt off already, which I loved. I don't know. I sort of don't think of those things. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Paul. I feel like I dropped the ball on that one.
That's fine. That was a great answer. Jen, Alexandra, anything to add about the 80s, even if you weren't born then?
I think early on, I was so excited because we met with hair and makeup. We did a whole production meeting, and hair and makeup came, and everyone was, for it to be an indie film, everyone was so prepared, and they had pictures of Diana Ross and, Whitney Houston. And it was just like all these things. And I was super excited from the beginning, even though I wasn't born then.
You don't have to keep singing it. We know. You're young. Congratulations.
I just have to tease everyone every time we get asked that question. But no, it was really, really exciting. And Lisa did have the playlist, and I think she actually set me up on Spotify. And so it was really great to kind of really just get into that mood. And I've always wanted to play like a period piece. I wanted to go further back into like the slavery times, but this was a good start.
And Jen, anything to add?
No, just screw you and Alexandra. No, I mean, I am old enough to remember the 80s. I didn't care for it then. I still don't care for it, but it was fun just to kind of have like big hair and silly clothes. So yeah, there was a little funness there.
And your car, even though it wasn't 80s, but you had an amazing car.
That was cool.
That was good. I was born in the 80s. I was born in 1981. Okay. Lisa, I love the setting and the houses. Can you tell us how you found those locations and what it was like to shoot there? And where were those houses? What city, what town?
Yeah, so an act of God is how we found these houses. We shot outside of New Orleans. It was a tiny town that still looks like it's stuck in the 70s or 80s. It's called Hammond, Louisiana. And we shot in the winter, and we were trying to make it look like Missouri in the summer. And we found the houses. We had a location scout who was very great, but really it was me and the producers and the location scout knocking on doors and trying to just driving neighborhoods and looking for houses side by side that looked cinematic, and then knocking on those doors and asking these homeowners if we could take over their houses for the next 3 months. So we ended up finding these homes, and it was hard. I mean, shooting in Hammond, Louisiana in the winter and trying to make it look summer. I mean, we had to VFX. A lot of people were blowing cold air through their scenes, and so we had to take a lot of that cold air out. We had to add shine, but we made it work.
Yeah. And back to you, Alexandra. You and Jackson, who play Tate, are like really amazing together on screen. Can you tell us how this was achieved?
Oh, Jackson. It was so cool. We did a panel with him like a few weeks ago, and I was like, it was the first time I seen him since we shot this. And because he's so busy, right? I mean, he works more than all of us. But 10 years old. Ooh. But no, it was amazing. I knew from the beginning, like when we first met in the hotel, we just connected, right away. And then we got to hang out in New Orleans together. It was my first time. And I think it was his first time too. And so we just hung out the entire day with one of the producers and his mom. But him and I just were kind of like on our own little adventure. And we literally just spent 24 hours together. And, I really feel like that helped us build that chemistry together. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And Lisa, you used to have them rehearse quite a bit, like separately, which is a luxury that you don't often get in film, and certainly not in little indies like we were making. Maybe you could speak to that a bit.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we didn't have a lot of prep time, so it was very important for me to have the actors that were going to be in scenes together as much as possible. So we worked at night. I mean, I think Jen even did a read through multiple times. We changed the script when she came in. And it was very important that Jackson and Alexandra spend a lot of time together to build a rapport. And Alexandra, actually tell that story about like in between set or in between takes, how Jackson came up and like you guys had that bonding moment, because that's one of my favorite stories.
Oh, yeah. I have a video where we're like, it was the scene where we're out on the sidewalk where we first meet. And he's 10 years old, so he's just moving. They're like trying to get the marks together, and he's just moving here and moving there. And so I'm standing there, and he just grabs my hand, and he's just twiddling around with my hand like we're best friends. And it was just like, oh, and it's just, and there were so many moments that we shared where it was just like, a lot of times in my life as a trans woman, I don't really know sometimes what love feels like, right? I haven't talked to my family in 10 years since they disowned me. So it's nice and refreshing. It was refreshing to see someone who was so just innocent and he saw me as a person. You know what I mean? And so I think that was what was so beautiful. And I think that helped translate as well on screen that at the end of the day, this young boy Tate, he sees Gossamer as a regular person, and he loved her, even when the world, wasn't kind to her. So yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. It was beautiful. Yardley, your character Phyllis isn't the most likable. What's it like preparing and playing such a character?
I come from a family that we're really waspy, so there's this underlying tundra behind sort of everything. So I just had to sort of tap into that a little bit. They're lovely people, but my upbringing, I would say, was very formal, not always particularly demonstratively affectionate. I certainly know I was loved. It's not a story like that, but it was just kind of, there were sort of boundaries, and so Phyllis is a bit like that. And I feel like Phyllis, whatever the losses are in her past, she's never really gotten over them, and each one is a notch in her cane as a kind of look what I survived. There are survivors who don't make a big thing of whatever trauma they've survived, and then there are survivors who never let you forget that they've survived the trauma. That's Phyllis. So, and also though, at Paperclip, this was I think our fourth film that we've produced, and because I'm an actress first and foremost, I like to try to be in the things that we do. None of them have been developed for me, but that's fine. But sort of like Hitchcock, I like to do a little drive-by. So Phyllis was my little drive-by.
Good. And Jen, now that we know that you and Lisa are best friends, this question becomes even more interesting. I know that you two have worked together in the past. What was it like working with your best friend on her directorial debut? What was it like?
There's certain friendships where there's this phrase that called compersion. It's a relatively new word that kind of comes out of polyamory, and it's the idea of taking joy in someone else's pleasure. And that's what I feel when my friends succeed, and when I see my friends excel and get great opportunities, and then more than clear the bar. So I know how talented Lisa is. I've seen all of her work. I've worked with her on short films. I've seen her struggle, and particularly all of us that know and love Lisa know that she had proven that she was ready to direct a feature, but it is so hard to get that first feature. Unless you have producers like Yardley out there who are willing to say yes, you get stuck in this loop of, well, we need someone who has experience, but you can never get the experience because that's all they want. So we knew that Lisa was the right person for it. And then to show up on set and just see this person, commanding the crew and going back and forth between different sets and prepping the actors, and the rapport that she'd achieved with the cast and crew, and the amount of work she put in. After hours, we'd be at the hotel bar and like going over scenes and just thinking about how can we make this even better yet. Just seeing her come up to this big opportunity and just swing for the fences, it's just joy. It's just pure joy to watch her excel.
Oh, I love you. Thank you.
What a beautiful answer.
I know.
This happens to be true. And likewise with Alexandra, who I've also known for years, and she's been in stuff that I've written, but we've never actually worked together. So the chance to finally bring this personal rapport that she and I have, which is kind of very playful. We tease each other a lot, and to just be able to walk on set and let that dynamic between us infuse these characters was a really great opportunity as well.
Yeah, we've been waiting forever to get in the ring with each other. So a lot of us, I always say that I feel like Jen and I, we growing up in the business together. But there are other actresses too, like Rain Valdez, and we finally just got to work together on her series. And so I always love it. I always say, I want to get in the ring with you, because you don't get to see trans actors necessarily interacting with other trans actors on screen. So I was really happy. It was safe because I knew she was a pro, and she would just be there for me as well. So
yeah. Sure. And I loved Razor Tongue. So funny. So funny. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lisa, Sarah MacLachlan, original song. How did that happen?
Well, we have an incredible composer. We got so lucky to get Aaron Zigman on this film. He's a veteran composer. He's very well known in the industry. And we were doing a dub in Austin, and he said, this film needs an original song. And basically said, you know, if you could have anybody do an original song, who would it be? And I'm a huge Sarah MacLachlan fan. I was, you know, I think I've been to Lilith Fair like 17 times. And I might have, you know, flown to Vancouver because I knew that she lived there at one point, but we'll talk about that another time. So I said Sarah MacLachlan, also because Sarah MacLachlan I knew her sensitivities of what this film was also the right fit. And he ended up reaching out to her producer, and they asked for a rough cut of the film. And basically a month later, they gave us a first cut of the song, and it blew my mind. I was like, what? And then we collaborated from there to make the song what it is. But we got so lucky.
There's no way to overstate what a big fan of Sarah MacLachlan is. Our circle of friends were all kind of 90s queer women, and the whole Lilith Fair gang. It's a part of who we are. And I'll never forget being at Lisa's house when she found out that Sarah MacLachlan was going to write a song. I think we just like collectively screamed for a few days on it. It's still surreal. It's, you know, to grow up and to kind of look at these cultural icons and then arrive at a point where they become your colleagues is one of the most wonderfully gratifying and surreal experiences.
Ooh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And Alexandra, this leading role, I'm keen to know, has it had a positive impact on your career since you played it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it hasn't come out yet, but you know, we're working on that. And no, I think it's, for me, it's all about, it's spiritual and it's mental. And for me, like I said before I got this, I had heard so many no's, and I didn't work for like 3.5 years. After coming off a very successful television run. Not sure what happened, but I didn't like the person that I was becoming. I was entitled, and I was upset, and you know, there's some, you know, there's some truth there. You know, there's some stuff that needs to be changed in the business. But for the most part, I didn't like the person I was becoming. And so when I got the yes for this, it really, really shifted my entire state of mind, to where I just said that I'm never going to allow this business or hearing no ever get me depressed like it did, ever make me feel like I'm not talented. I'll never ever do that again. And so booking this role, I haven't stopped working since I booked it. That is the truth. And that is all credit to the film and Yardley and Lisa and everyone giving me the chance to say that I can helm a film, you know, I can be a leading woman, and I can do this, and I am talented. And I'll never forget that again because of this movie. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That was
Beautiful.
That girl can give a good little speech, can't she? Woo!
Okay, we've got time for, sadly, only one more question. It's a question I'd like everyone to answer. And it's talking about impact, and about what impact you hope this film will have on the world, will have on the film industry, and will have on more trans actors getting cast in Hollywood and all films.
Well, I'll start, I guess. I think it goes back to what Alexandra was really saying about Jackson, that he saw her just as a person. And my hope is, as a producer, that you know, that it's so easy in this business to get typecast, that Alexandra and Jen and all of the other really incredibly talented trans actors and actresses are able to play all the roles, not just the trans roles, that we're all people. And if you have the ability to share your heart and your soul with an audience, then that is really the qualification. Beyond that, what are we talking about? So I hope that it simplifies this question, as though the question even needs to be asked. What do we do with trans actors? For God's sake, just put them in your stuff. Just put them in your stuff. There.
I'll go next. So I go back to this quote, which I'm pretty sure I learned from Disclosure, the documentary, which is fantastic. But it's that 85% of Americans don't think they know a trans person personally. And so that means that 85% of those people are getting their education and information from media. And most of what we see in media, we know the story, is very, archaic, derogatory, these old stereotypes that flood the media. And so my hope for the film is that these people in rural America, in rural Missouri, in rural Louisiana, have the conversation of what it actually means to be trans with their next door neighbor for the very first time. I feel like this film has that kind of reach, and that's what excites me most about finally distributing it.
I'll speak next so that Alexandra can get in the last word. And my hope for the film is very, very practical. I hope Lisa gets to direct more features and that Alexandra gets more lead roles. I mean, that's the practical consequence that I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm most excited. There's two aspects for me, right? Obviously, there's my aspect in my career. I'd like to really hope that I can play more and more characters, like Yardley said, that aren't even specifically trans. But I think just for the socially conscious part of it, I want people to see the movie because I think it's a first. I think it's a first of any, to see a Black trans woman, really starring in a feature film. I mean, I haven't really seen it yet. And so I think for me, I think that's the importance of really, really telling these stories and having a film like this so that people can see, because a lot of people, they may not know a trans person, right? And all they have is Jerry Springer, and they have all of these negative perceptions. So something like this, where you're showing this person as a person, you never know how that can change their mind and perspective. But I hope going forward that trans actors and people and minorities, that their opportunities just continue to open up. I hope people start writing more roles for Black trans women. I'm really looking forward to that, and so I'm hoping that this movie is the foundation that helps really start that conversation.
A massive thanks to Jen, Alexandra, Yardley, and Lisa for joining us today, and a massive congrats on Gossamer Folds.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.